could order from Sonic, and I like the peach mango, not peach mango, peach strawberry real slush smoothie. Maybe I don't know. Divine. It has little strawberry chunks in it too.
I thought Sonic was going out of business. I mean, at least here in Florida, I don't be seeing nobody eating no more.
Oh no, I don't eat their food. I just like the cheese and stuff.
I'm here, y'all.
I know they not paying the two little guys to do the commercials no more.
Cool.
Remember these two guys that used to sit in the car on all the Sonic commercials?
Oh, I do remember those.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, anytime I pass by a Sonic, I've even been to a Sonic, just say within the last year, and it was just me. In the drive-through and at the little pull-up situation.
Does they ever have like a real drive-through window, or you got to do the little pull-up situation?
Nah, they got a real drive-through window.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they just. I used to eat Sonic a lot in high school. For one, I used to like it, but in two, I also had a homeboy that worked there, and I used to, get it for the low. I actually just ran into him, which is what's crazy. I mean, we've already been kind of like in contact with each other a little bit, but I actually ran into him after one of my comedy shows. I was out on the strip, which is called the Ybor City, which is just the strip right there in the area where my show would be at. And sometimes we go out there like to get something to eat after the show. And I ran into him out there. The same guy who was working at Sonic.
Okay.
Which I will allow him to remain nameless just in case the statute of limitation may not be up. Nor will I identify which Sonic it was.
A mess.
Just in case.
You don't make it home tonight.
All right.
Kellie, your hair long.
Thank you. You see my little hang time? I got a little hang time.
That's a cough too, there, don't you?
Now I need some water. I get it when we boom shakalaka.
Well, the video is only 26 seconds, so
I'll be back.
Don't think you got forever.
I'll be back.
So, since you got to get the water, I'll let you start it whenever you're ready to go.
Go run. Okay.
I gotta run too. Yeah.
All right, so we both got 26 seconds.
Everybody leave at the same time.
Boom shakalaka.
Top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world.
Well, welcome to another episode of the Worst Ones Podcast. This is the podcast and platform for us preachers' kids who come and be the absolute worst. My name is Rudy Wilson. I am the son of a preacher's man. Got Kellie Lee's in the building. She is the daughter of a preacher man. And Jay Rihanna in the building. She is the daughter of a preacher man. We all grew up in the Atlanta preaching scene, church scene, black church scene. This is just a side note. Are churches in Atlanta still doing okay? Like as a whole, I know some churches are, but I'm just saying, like as a whole, is Atlanta still a church going town like it used to be?
Well, most of my people are church going friends, so I don't know. I would say yes.
Okay. I think church culture in Atlanta is still very much so here, but I do think a lot of people, I will say I don't see a lot of people our age there. Not saying they don't go. Maybe it's just the churches I don't know. Maybe go to a different church, but or bedside Baptist, you know. But I still see like concerts, and I saw 2 live recordings from like big local artists here. So you know, still here.
Okay, gotcha. No, I just know, even just growing up in Atlanta, it was definitely a heavy church going time, especially just saying the Black community. Because I don't think I've ever lived any place, and I've lived a couple different places that had as many, like, I guess what would be considered mega churches. And when I say mega, I'm not saying they all had 30,000 members, but I'm just saying even just, you know, just at least 5,000 members and up. Like, that's pretty common in the Atlanta area. Like, big churches are pretty common versus other places I've lived. You may have 1 or 2, and then it just be a bunch of other storefronts or houses or small churches in the community. And rain, hail, sleet, or snow, club the night before, drug dealers, gangsters, everybody woke up and went to church on Sunday growing up. So
yeah, now I know a couple of churches here where the 25 to 45-year-olds go. I've been to a couple of them, you know, pretty nice size, maybe not 5,000 or more, but nice size churches. And so I feel like in Atlanta, like if your desire to go to church, you can find the church that you want to go to. We got churches with, you know, inclusive. We have like the Mike Todd party every Sunday type churches. We have the ones where I went to it once where they got all the stuff kind of popping out at you as he preaching, and you doing all this and that and the light, you know. So I feel like in terms of, can I find a church that fits my needs in Atlanta, Black? Somebody told me I'm not a young professional anymore, but Black. Tell me I'm not young. Black professionals.
Wait a minute.
Black middle-aged professionals.
sounds beyond me. But yeah, you can. I would say yes to an extent. Like, you can definitely still find a variety of churches that you can attend that are the young families, professionals, people look like us, for sure.
Gotcha. Okay, well, how is everybody doing, and how was your Father's Day? I know, Janessa, I know you had a story to tell about your brother or something like that when it came to Father's Day.
Oh
yeah. Yes. Well, first we asked my dad what he wanted for Father's Day, and he told us he wanted a Tesla. And we immediately said, "What's Plan B?" Said he had to think about it. And I asked him like Friday before. He said he had to think about it. So I was going to have a barbecue at my house for my dad on Sunday. But then DJ swooped into the group chat. He had got tickets for them to go see Atlanta Symphony Orchestra on Sunday. So I didn't think my dad would go, but he did. So
is that his vibe?
You know, he does like classical music. So yeah. We went to see Star Trek for my birthday at Symphony Hall. So, you know, we kind of like different things. We're in the alternative world.
That's what's up.
But yeah, after they left, I had went to visit my grandfather, who is my dad's father. And so the 4 of us, my dad, my grandfather, my brother, we all got to hang out, and that was a good time, because I don't think there's ever been a time when it's been just the 4 of us. And my grandfather, this is before my dad got there, and my brother decided he wanted to give me a gun safety lesson.
Okay.
Now, my grandfather's 91. So he goes and gets the first gun, and he's like, I was like, oh, that's kind of big. And he was like, you're right. Let me go get a smaller one. And so he comes back, and he's like showing me how to take the bullets out. And He was like, "Now I can't figure out how to put the safety back on." And I was just like, "Wait a minute, wait a minute." So we had to figure that out, a little Googlerization. But it was still fun because he just really wanted me to be safe, and he was saying like, it's really dangerous out here, and he wants me to be protected. And he is a former Marine, so it's not that he doesn't know guns, but he is also 91, and probably shouldn't. He might trip, fall, accidentally go off. But I had a pretty good Father's Day.
Out of curiosity, when your dad said he wanted a Tesla, was that a serious request?
I think he actually, I don't think it was a serious request to the children, but I think he does want one.
I was gonna say, I mean, y'all, I didn't know the Rowland family was doing that well. He just asked his kids for a Tesla, and y'all be like, "Gotcha, Dad." The three of us combined, we can afford that. We'll pay the note and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was just curious,
We wanted to get him what he asked for decades ago when we were kids. When we were kids, we would ask him what he wanted for Father's Day, and he would say, "Obedient children." And so we were gonna be some obedient children this year in our big old lake.
Right. Right.
That's what's up.
How's the walking?
I haven't gone walking, but I did go to Zumba yesterday, and I go every other day.
Okay.
But you see, I'm eating this chocolate muffin, but it's because I didn't have any more Ritz crackers.
It's balanced.
That's what was taking me so long.
Balance.
Trying to warm it up for 10 seconds.
Right. She did something in addition to go and get the water.
I blamed on that we're recording early. And so I didn't get an extra day to get an extra exercise in. But I did do something yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, this early recording threw everything off. I mean, all my productivity off.
But Kelly, how was your Father's Day?
So similar story. I texted my dad and said, "Hey, I'm going to the golf store. What do you want for Father's Day?" He wrote me back a golf cart.
Oh, okay.
I said, "Well, send
Tesla
me
golf cart."
What?
I said Tesla golf cart.
Right. I said, "Send me your credit card number, and I got you." So my dad, being the jokester that he is, sends me a credit card number. He had the credit card number, the expiration date, the 3-4 little numbers on the back. So I didn't even realize it was fake. So I'm in panic mode. Like, is he serious? I call my mom. Mom, he really want a golf cart? You want me to buy him a golf cart? It went to the next day. When I talked to him, he was like, "Kelly, I was joking." That I realized that like the expiration date was 1313, like the whole number was fake. But I was in like straight like, is he serious? You see them send me? It looks like a card number. Father's Day was good. Took him to Puck Shack when we were younger. He used to like to go putt. We used to go miniature golfing a lot, so we took him to the high-end electronic miniature golf. So that was a good time. He lost and couldn't believe that he lost to my nephew, who was in last place the whole game, and then somehow miraculously got like 3 hole-in-ones in one. So he was upset. He couldn't figure that out. So that was fun. And then church Sunday. And then so I was watching this show called Under the Bridge. It's on Hulu. Great show. It's like a crime drama type of show. So I watched it last Sunday, actually, when I said I didn't go to church because I was watching a TV show all day. And I was telling my mom and my dad about it, and my dad was like, "Let's watch it." So it's 10 episodes. Each episode is like 50 minutes to an hour. When I tell you we sit and watch 9 out of those 10 episodes Sunday night, we just until 2:00 in the morning. Now, usually once he preaches, he comes home, like we cook, whatever. And he falls asleep 6-7 o'clock. But I think just wanting to hang out with us, just wanting to do things, and the show was really good too. We sat there, me, my mom, my dad, till 2:00 in the morning and watched this show. So that was fun because I'm a binger. Like I sit and binge, and so me and my father have done that a couple of times. My mom is usually like after 2-3 episodes, like I'm done. But she hung in there with us, so that was good. So Father's Day was great. It was a great time. Yeah.
And so you're down from 9 reports to.
Ooh, this day ahead
Sneaked up
kind of
on
messed me up.
it.
Yeah. This
Mhm.
was a week. This was a week about enjoying summer and fellowshipping with my father. It wasn't really a work week. So I'm at
so you still oh, you're at 7. Okay.
I'm at 7.
So you still at 9.
7. We're slowly moving. And when I left my parents' house yesterday, because I spent the night Sunday, I said I told my dad, because he asked me too all the time. And I told my dad I'm gonna be 5 by the end of the night. 5 by the end of the night. I was 7 when I left the house. So let that claim 7. And I go out of town this weekend, so the rest of the week is shot. So we'll see next week.
Okay.
So yep. So Rudy, what about you?
As far as Father's Day, it was pretty much just a normal Sunday. I mean, my dad is very he's kind of like me when it comes down to just say holidays in general. And even him getting stuff, he don't be caring, So like I had actually seen a card that I thought fit him very well, like several weeks ago, kind of I guess maybe a couple weeks ago, leading up to Father's Day. So I had, and I wasn't even like looking through the card. I was at the Dollar Tree, but it was like they had like a little card rack, right there by the line. And I seen it and I read it, and it just described him so perfectly. So I just got it. So I gave it to him Sunday, and even though I bought it, and none of my sisters even know I bought it, I just wrote on there it's from everybody.
Oh,
because
I did that for my grandfather's card.
Yeah, which I'm sure if he texted them and told them thank you, they probably didn't know what he was talking about. But yeah, so it's so as far as like Father's Day type stuff, that was pretty much it. I mean, like I said, my dad, we at the point now we don't even ask anymore because we already know what his answer's gonna be.
Obedient children.
He ain't even asked for that. For his birthday and Father's Day growing up, he used to be asked to be left alone. That was the most we would get. just leave me alone, let me rest. Or he'll just be like, I don't want nothing. I don't care about that. So at this point we don't even ask no more. And so that was Father's Day, but I did go see Bad Boys.
How was it? I heard it was good.
It was good. Yeah, it's good. I've only seen it. Me and my mom seen it Friday matinee. Because I don't do anything other than matinee at this point in my life. And
movies are expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. And my mom.
That's the best time.
Say it again.
Matinees are the best time to go because no one's there. One's there.
Right. No, for sure. And being that it's summertime, I mean, there was like kids there with their parents going to see something else, but it still wasn't like crazy busy. But I go to matinee, and then my mom, she's off on Fridays. So normally if I try to catch like a Friday matinee, I usually just ask her, does she want to go? Because we went and seen when we went to go see Book of Clarence, that was like a Friday matinee type situation. And normally we try to go around like 12 or 1 because that'll give me enough time to get off work at 6, get a few hours of sleep. Yeah. And then go see it or whatever. So that was dope. So like I said, outside of that and Friday, everything else is pretty normal. And then in regards to I guess productivity, still getting better. I'm still accomplishing more things at work these days. Interesting enough, though, just as a side work story, there's this guy who's been coming like the last couple of weeks who just talks my head off, and not in like I have a lot of people who come in and talk to me like on a daily basis, but it's pretty much either on their way in or on their way out. But this guy just talks my head off. When he first comes in, he'll work out for 5 minutes, come back, talk my head off, work out for 5 minutes, come back. And it's just nonstop. And it's like, I was at the point yesterday where I was like trying to figure out, how can I tell this dude to leave me alone? You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, like, just have one conversation at some point while you're here, and then the rest of the time, bro, just go do something else. Like, you are bothering me at this point.
Right.
Well,
bothering.
So yesterday while I was cleaning, this is probably around, just say 4 something in the morning or whatever. I don't know what happened to my body, but I had that feeling of like you know how, like, when you're hungry, but not hungry as far as stomach growling, but like you feel weak, like you got the shakes, like your body kind of shaking, whatever like that. You like, you know, you need food. Like I was starting to experience that. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I don't even know why, because I had already ate earlier and I had been drinking water all night. It's not like I was dehydrated. I don't know where the feeling came from, but I just knew, like, dang, I still got a lot to clean up and I need something to eat. And I can't leave because I'm the only person who works overnight. And to try to, you know, Uber eat something at this time in the area where I live, it's unlikely anybody will be here anytime soon. You know what I'm saying? With Uber Eats, you got a small window. You got to either order like when I first get to work or maybe closer to like 6 in the morning. But 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, ain't nobody coming.
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, like the phone rings like 3 different times, and it's this guy. He's already done left at this point. He done already talked my head up. He's calling me constantly at the work phone.
Talk about what?
The work phone. But he was calling because for whatever reason, he was like, "Hey man, what time you get off work?" And I'm like 6. He was like, "Yo, I'm about to bring you some breakfast."
Aww.
And when I tell you that breakfast saved my life.
See, because y'all talk so often, he knew your temperament. He knew something was off the other day. Because he talked so much, he knows exactly.
Well, I don't even know how he felt that because part of the time he was talking to me, I was eating. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. And I was just like, boy, God knew to touch this person at the right time. Like it just was random. But that breakfast brought me back to life. I had to slow down in my working and everything, and I was like, boy, I'm about to tap out. But this is getting ugly.
Right.
And he brought me that. He brought me it was a hash brown and an omelet from IHOP. It's an IHOP like right across the street.
Okay.
And that thing brought me back to life. So
amen.
So yeah, man, God be working out here, even through the people that you ready to.
Right, who annoy you?
You know, I'm talking about who drives you crazy. And I got patience, but this was it was getting to that point. So I thank my Heavenly Father. Happy Father's Day for that gift. That was definitely needed. All right. So anyway, so we are now on part 2 of our discussion about the Hillsong documentary. Those of y'all who may have watched it at this point, hopefully you are as caught up as we are. So as you're listening to us discuss this, you can have context on what it is that we're talking about. So Kellie, I know you mentioned last week during the discussion, you kind of was getting ready to say something about the nanny that Pastor Carl Lentz cheated with. But then I know even when we talked offline, you want to talk about Carl Lentz cheating, the abuse he suffered, as well as the nanny, and kind of idolizing, I guess, him. So is there? Do you want to cover all that together, or is there one direction you want to go first? Or
so I guess here was my thought. I guess it kind of all goes together, just in terms of. So I guess my question, as I thought about it this week, does childhood trauma, childhood abuse make people unfit to lead? And so to give a little context for those who haven't seen it, excuse me. So We talked about Pastor Carl last week, and how he grew this mega church in New York. And then, from there, they expanded to other churches in other parts of the world. And Pastor Carl, like, people loved him. And so his downfall started when he was caught cheating. I can't remember how they found out. I think the woman told that he was cheating. I can't remember. But found out that he was cheating. And then at that point, the church asked him to step down. And so in all of that, in Pastor Carl talking about it, because what was great and unexpected in episode 2 is that in the documentary, they actually did an interview with Pastor Carl. And so definitely wasn't expecting like him to talk about it. And so in him talking about it, he talked about how he was molested as a child and suffered, from sexual abuse. He was a sexual abuse victim. And how when they were, I guess, grooming him to be this pastor, they talked about, he kind of talked about first ladies and being married, and that most pastors don't have these churches without being married. And so he knew that was one of the prerequisites, if you will, to being the pastor and starting his church in New York. And so married one of the Houston's family friend's daughters. And I think he really, loved her. But one of the things that he said was, I then thought that my sexual desires were going to go away because I got married. And so they didn't. And he cheated. And it seems like, I think they only told us of 2 instances. The lady who kind of told and did the interviews and all of that, and the nanny. But again, my question was just wrapped up in one. Does that incident in his life that he couldn't control, he was a young boy and he was molested, but then he tried to suppress it, he tried to ignore it, he tried to do whatever, becomes a pastor, sins, we all sin, but sin to the extent that they asked him to step down. Did that make him unfit to lead in the first place? In that we can talk about the nanny. So that's kind of
right. That's a great question, great perspective as well. I mean, it definitely makes you feel, and I guess to his defense, low key, he's I'm sure slightly older than us, probably like in his early 40s or whatever. So he because we grew up in this era, so he definitely grew up in this era where just say like therapy and all that wasn't as big of a conversation as it is now. You know what I'm saying? And even a lot of times, like as much as the congregation isn't going to therapy, pastors and stuff weren't either, because you always ask the question, who is the therapist? Who is my therapist's therapist? Or who is the, who's my leader's leader? Who is my pastor's pastor? Like, who do they go to? Because everybody always goes to them, but who are they able to go to for their own personal life or hardships or whatever it is? And so I'm sure, and I guess it's evident that he wasn't able to get get a handle on all of that outside of, maybe even if he did ask somebody about it, they probably just was like, rebuke it or pray about it or whatever, but never got like, the just say more tangible steps that he could take to kind of just say assist in that. And so I guess my short answer in reference to answering the question, does it make you unfit to lead? I think on one side, there should definitely be some type of, I don't know if you call it rehab or just some type of help that can just say assist a leader in getting that deliverance or I don't know if you call it correction or just that, to be able to better themselves. If there's something in place to help even just say, okay, let me backtrack. So even like just say in that school, that Australian Hillsong college or whatever, like in a place like that, especially if you're grooming up these people to be pastors or whatever, if there was something in place to say like, hey, any type, but also go, speak to this therapist, because when you get into this position of power, it does come with a certain level of healing that you need to, or a certain place of healing you need to be in order to be able to effectively, help others. But then even on the flip side, let's say if you come up in an era where that doesn't exist, and we've talked about this a little bit on this podcast before, I think being pastors, having the freedom to be able to be open and not have to wear this mask, I think also then helps you be an effective leader, because you can be an imperfect person and be an effective leader if you're able to live in transparency. You know what I'm saying? I think the ineffectiveness comes in when you have to try to, hide your hand, you know what I'm saying? And present yourself as perfect, as opposed to actually getting the healing. And that's what even kind of gave me my, just say, the liberty and freedom that I live in right now, because I've talked about this with y'all before. Like when I first started doing comedy, mind you, I was preaching before doing comedy. And so like, you see the content on my social media with me doing like these morning inspiration videos, whatever, blah, blah. And then you see me doing comedy. And at first I used to try to edit out me cussing and all this other type of stuff. But then after a while, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to just be myself, because me trying to hide who I am, I'm actually just digging a deeper hole for myself, because I'm trying to appear perfect in front of humans so that they can still feel like I'm anointed. But God, who's the ultimate judge, still knows what I'm doing anyways. You feel what I'm saying? So like, I don't have a way of hiding it from him. So me hiding it from people, I'm just adding on to the sin, because I'm already just say sinning. When I say sinning, I'm talking about like whether I was fornicating, whatever the case may be, but then I'm also lying about it. You feel what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to cover up sin with sin. And I think that trying to cover up sin with sin, I feel like makes you more ineffective than having something that you need to get through and being transparent about it. And then people being able to see the journey of you reaching, just say, your deliverance. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times people feel like pastors are perfect. Like they don't, not only they don't just say struggle, but they don't go through anything as far as hardships in life or whatever like that. And that's just not, true. So I think you can be effective even with having past trauma, but it's either you already deal with the healing process before getting into leadership, or you deal with the healing process while you're in leadership, but you be transparent about it and allow people to go on that healing journey with you.
Hey y'all, sorry to interrupt, but we have a few church announcements. Follow us on Instagram at TheWorstOnesPK. New content coming soon. We also have a TikTok at TheWorstOnesPK. No content yet, but continue to check us out. If you want to, when you listen to our podcast, you can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Just make sure you type in The Worst Ones Podcast and you'll find us. And when you get there, make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe, and you share. Thank you to our 500,422 followers. We love you so much. Now, back to the show.
So I kind of have a bunch of thoughts, and I did write some thoughts down so that I wouldn't be all over the place. So initially I was thinking, and not just Hillsong, I think all churches, or I won't say all, a lot of churches miss the mark when it comes to self-healing or trauma and past hurts, hang-ups, hiccups in leadership of churches. I think a lot of churches worldwide have missed that mark. But I think in this situation, Hillsong has a unique case, because I was going to say, well, where was the training the leadership, the guidance, the mentorship. But Hillsong has a whole college, or had a whole college that's dedicated to this.
Mhm.
And so I was thinking about, they were interviewing, I think it was like 4 people, and they were saying it was something that had to do with childcare at the church. And they were asking questions like, when was the last time you masturbated? Or, did you have homosexual thoughts or things like that? And if you, I guess, answered it the wrong way, you got a red sticker, and it said everybody knew that it meant you were struggling or something like that. And I think it was Carl Lentz who was saying, when they were asking him the questions, it got to a point where, I think one of the questions was, have you ever watched porn? And he was like, well, no one else is saying it, so of course I haven't watched it either, knowing good and well he had too. And I think that situation was even more toxic, because now you're, as he said, you're learning how to lie and create this false narrative to fit the image that Hillsong was trying to present. And so I do feel like, while they have the institution that could have been a resource in terms of, mental health or therapy or whatever, group sessions, I don't know. I think the ball was dropped in that regard. But then when you kind of step back and look at the whole Hillsong situation as a whole, because I did rewatch the last episode 3 and 4, it just seemed like it was really about money at the end of the day, just growing it, making as much money as they can. They had all these different entities, whether it's the music or the college or the cafe or whatever. And I don't know if their intentions, just given the grand scheme of things, was ever to really develop solid Christian leadership. Or if it was just to develop people that can fit what they were trying to do, so they can open up more churches, get more money, have more entities.
And not to cut you off, but just to add on, probably, and even to keep getting people to enroll to the college, which is also another source of income.
Yeah. So I think it's a bigger issue as a whole, even though this situation is unique in what it is. I think there's a lot of people in leadership within the church who have a lot of deep hurts, hangups, hiccups, traumas that haven't even been, acknowledged or processed, especially in the Black community. Therapy is not a big, it's kind of like a taboo topic. And so now we're in a new age where, therapy is, I don't know what the right word is with the kids today, but it's kind of more acceptable. But everybody's not just jumping on the therapy train either. Because there are probably plenty of pastors right here in the good old United States, let alone Atlanta, Georgia, who probably could benefit from some therapy and some introspective work. And we don't see, and part of it, when I say we don't see, because we probably will never see, but I'm not hearing or seeing the emphasis of that in churches, period. And then I just kind of also want to talk about, on the other side of it, is like trauma and the way it shows up in our real lives and how you can impact other people. It's very deep. And we can kind of see how with the father, what was the father's name? Is it Frank? Or it was Brian?
Brian's father?
Yeah.
Yes,
I think, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I think it was Frank and Brian, and like they got intertwined in trying to cover up each other's secrets, and it was just a whole lot. I know we haven't really gotten there, but it just seems like, not saying that people who have traumas can't lead. It just seems like unhealed trauma causes more trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't really see it until many years later. And it just kind of keeps getting passed down, because even I think Carl Lentz was talking about, he had some trauma he experienced when he was younger, but he didn't really know how that, I guess, impacted him until he went to rehab or something like that. And so I think there's not one thing that can be done at this point that will kind of change the trajectory or change the pain and hurt and disappointment that has been caused in the church by people who were dealing with, going through their own hurt. Like, I don't know, there's not one thing that can do to change all of that that's happened. But I do think even outside of the church, but I get because it's leading like people and it's spiritual, but I feel like people, period, really need mental health, like services. That needs to be normalized. That needs to be the, mandatory, required, because it just impacts everybody and everything. If you're a parent, it impacts your kids. You might not be leading a flock of parishioners, but that child's going to grow up and they're going to impact people too. And it's just a trickle down effect. And I'm going to be quiet because I have many more thoughts and I can just keep going.
So another truth moment about my lack of productivity. I still haven't watched episode 4. And so I'm guessing the questions about when's the last time you watched porn and masturbation was in episode 4, because I have not seen that yet.
Gotcha.
But, no problem, because I was supposed to watch it. So, but I think you both made great points just about, and Rudy, I should have written down what you said. But in terms of the pre-work that needs to be done before leading, and then in the importance of mental health, and then same thing that you kind of affirmed, Janessa, with like just how important mental health is. And I wonder, right, if, and I can't remember if he said or not, if Pastor Carl ever mentioned that this was something that happened, if that was ever a part of the conversation with Brian Houston when we're talking about, like you said, the responsibilities and the power of being a pastor. Hey, let's talk about some of those things that may come up and impact not only you, but your family and the congregation. Like, are you having those conversations? I agree, Janessa, that mental health counseling may need to be a requirement for everybody that works in the church. Something, because we hold so much in, especially when you talk about childhood trauma before you're even at an age to really process what's happening. When you know that it's wrong, but I don't know how to, and I think somebody said this, like, identify what I'm feeling. What was I watching? No, I was watching something else, but they were talking about kids. This Under the Bridge show I was watching. It's amazing. Y'all should watch it. But it was talking about kids and talking about just their lack of understanding of different emotions. Happy and sad, but you don't understand embarrassment or humiliation or joy or those things. And so when you feel those things, I don't know what it is. And so I just say I'm angry, because all I know is happy, sad, and angry. And so helping pastors, especially when you're grooming them, especially like you said, Janessa, there was a whole college dedicated to this. You would think that would be a part of the curriculum, but we know as we get to the end, it was just a money grabber. Whether you go to the college just so you can pay your tuition and we get your money, or we groom you to build bigger things, or to volunteer for free, or work for free, or or whatever. Find your spiritual gift so we can place you somewhere, and you're so loyal to a fault to this Hillsong ministry that you, like I said, lose your job, can't pay your rent, all sorts of stuff. You homeless, working at Hillsong. And so I do, because even when I hear just some of the church is such a ministry, the whole thing, you know, from the moment you answer the phone and you say Berean Christian Church, you are ministering to someone because someone has called for a purpose. And so if you as the church secretary are broken and unhealed and having a bad day and something has triggered and it's overflowing in your tone and your attitude and all of that, it makes a difference. Like I went to the gym today, to a gym that's connected to a church here in Atlanta, pretty big church, popular church here in Atlanta, and had an interaction with the manager, and it just wasn't pleasant. And the preacher's kid in me said, let me go see if my daddy, my uncle know the pastor of this church. I'm sure they do. And just tell them they person over there over their gym is rude. You know, because it's all like when you go to church related things, it is all a ministry. And we can't and so and I say that because it's not just the pastor. It's the pastor all the way down, you know, to everyone, the volunteers. Every single person there is ministering to someone's spirit. And so I agree. I think there needs to be more honest and transparent conversations about what's going on. I would have loved if Pastor Carl had gotten to the point where he expressed his childhood traumas, was healing through it, and in one of his sermons he addressed it. And in one of his sermons, he talked about, hey, this is something that I went through, because I'm sure there's a huge population in the congregation that also experienced the same thing and don't know what to do with it.
Right.
You know, I know a lot of people who have experienced the same thing and they don't know what to do with that. And they're 30, 40, 50, 60 years old at this point. And so I wish that, like you said, Rudy, that he could have been honest and transparent. And to your point, Janessa, I wish that mental health resources were required, not even available, but required for pastors and those in leadership, for sure. And being honest, like you said, because who is the pastor's leader? Who is the pastor's pastors? Who's the therapist? Like, because they need it as well. And even if you didn't suffer from childhood trauma, just we all got something. Let's be clear. We all got something. But but just the day-to-day of being a pastor, like, who do you release? And it's so funny, speaking of that, just a personal story. I spent the night at my parents' house Sunday night, and so Monday I was at home. My dad is off on Mondays, and I can hear him and my Uncle Kerwin having about an hour or two conversation about something. I don't know what they're talking about, but that because they're brothers and they're pastors and they're in the same thing, I hear them problem solving and talking through things and those things. And so I hope that all pastors have that connection with someone that they can be honest and transparent with about what's going on. Again, I know my dad and my uncle have a special relationship because they're brothers. But I hope that, everyone has that.
Yeah. And I what, you about to say something, Kellie?
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was about to say, and I think it would probably even be wise to even just say, especially if you can afford it or, provide this service, like even just have, just say therapists on staff, even for members, you know what I'm saying? Because we go to the pastor for everything in reference to like advice or counsel. But there may be things that they're just not educated on or even equipped to counsel you on themselves. Because like, let's say like if at that time somebody did go to Pastor Carl about dealing with the past traumas and I've been, abused as a child or whatever, his response is going to come from an unhealed place. Right. You feel what I'm saying? Because he hasn't dealt with it. And so now, even if he gives you what seemed to be good counsel at the time, and I'm sure he would have probably done the best that he could without, maybe even just say revealing what happened to him, like it still would come from an unhealed place. But if there's professionals, once again, every church may not be able to do it, but if there's professionals on deck who like, yeah, okay, I can go to the pastor about this, but and even if you go to the pastor first and one of the ministers first or whatever, and they like, yo, I really think you should talk to, you know, Dr. So-and-so, you know what I'm saying, who's here every Tuesday or whatever it is. And that just be a service. I mean, the same way that that there's churches who have their own gym, you know what I'm saying? There's churches who can have just say a mental health or even just a, you know, just section where, you know, not only we can pray about this, but I can also give you some steps to take home and say, hey, do this, you know what I'm saying? Reground yourself, whatever it is that therapists tell people, and then, you know, and even just help in that instance. But and to be clear, like, I definitely believe in the power of prayer. Like, I definitely know that God can just say supersede, if you will, the tangible act of going to a therapist and heal you, but being the fact that that does not necessarily happen, that's not necessarily happening at 100% rate. If you don't have that direct encounter with God where he just gives you that supernatural healing, then there are still mental health therapists or doctors or whatever it is that you can go to, you know, to assist in that, for leaders as well as, you know, the congregation.
I just had two other things. I think my church is a special situation just because my mom is a psychologist. So she definitely does step up and help out in providing certain mental health services. However, I do think my dad recently told me, and I didn't know this, he's had it for a while, his certification in mediating. And he was just, you know, telling me how it's definitely helped him with like marriage counseling, and if people from the church are coming with, you know, different issues, just how to be more of an effective listener and, you know, assisting and helping them with their situations. So I was also going to suggest that, you know, like you said, everybody might not be able to afford a team of counselors, licensed counselors, but maybe the pastor or maybe one person can, you know, maybe get like a certification in something related to therapy, to kind of be more of a solid resource. Because I do think that the lack of resource or the lack of knowledge is why a lot of people don't get therapy. They don't feel like there's anybody nearby or with their insurance, or it's too complicated. So, you know, the less complex it is, maybe people will actually use the service. But the other thing I wanted to say,
and I want to say something about that real quick too. So I know one of the reasons, there's a couple of reasons, a couple of things that happened in my life that made me want to be a psychologist. Your mom, one. Two, we did have I don't know if she was a licensed therapist, but a counselor at Berean, and someone that was their full-time job. And so I remember that growing up. I don't know what it looks like now. But I remember that growing up, and I thought that was just amazing. You know, that you have someone on staff that's their full-time job. Now, what I don't know is, was it just for the members? Or I guess the requirement of seeing that person, in terms of people on the staff and members. And then I think what you would have to do is separate the two, because I can see if that counselor is a part of like the staff and I feel like that's my colleague, then as a worker, I'm not going to go to you and talk to you about what's going on. You know, the members may, because I don't see this person every day. But if I work from you 9 to 5, then I'm probably not about to tell you all my business because, you know, whatever. So that was one of the things that I remember on my journey to doing psychology, is Berean having a full-time person. Again, I don't know what that looks like now. But I thought that was pretty cool.
I think that's pretty cool too. But the last thing I was gonna say, Kelly, I know you haven't seen part 4. Rudy, I don't know if you've seen it. Like at the end, some of the people who have been going through the documentary and telling their story, you know, they say where they are now. And several of them are like atheists. They they don't consider themselves Christians. They stopped going to church. Some, you know, found a smaller church or a different church. But it was very interesting to see it and to hear it, because we hear, like, we know, but to actually see and hear these people say that because of what they experienced at church turned them away. That's why I think it's so important. Like, it's been downplayed for centuries. And I was truly blown away by this whole documentary, because I've only known Hillsong through the music. And just to kind of see this whole story, and this has been going on for decades, and, you know, the father and then the son, and then even the associate or campus pastors, like just different stuff. It's just impacted so many people, because I think they said at one point in time the church had 30 locations, 150,000 people every Sunday. Yeah. And it's like, it's just mind blowing how one entity could do that much damage. And so I don't know. I think that's why it's got to be bigger. If we're talking about saving souls, we got to save souls. Like, we're losing souls. We're, you know, like, we gotta revisit what saving souls actually looks like.
Yeah.
So that's all I got.
And then the last thing I just wanted to say about the nanny, you know.
So is the nanny part of this, or we want to do part 3? We're almost at an hour with this.
I'm about to end it. Yeah. No, it's a part of this. I could end it with this. Okay. The thing that I wanted to say about the nanny was, just again in trauma, in hurt people. Broken people break people. And what stood out to me about the nanny is that when they talked about, it was a holiday, maybe Christmas, and everybody is home, and the wife kept saying, you can go home to your own family on Christmas. She was like, no, I'll stay here, you know, because that soul tie, that attachment that she had to Pastor Carl, in her brokenness, his brokenness, which broke her. Like, you have neglected to spend the holidays with your family to spend the holidays with someone else. Like, I just thought that was deep, and he allowed you to. You know, he had the family there, they were home, whatever. He allowed you to. When you heard the wife say, you know, go home, whatever, you know, I'm sure he looking at her like, no, stay. Because I think it was in that same conversation where she talked about seeing them in the compromising position, you know, in some room or whatever in the house. And so again, just wanted to just highlight how just the impact on trauma and how it impacts other people. And so then the nanny now misses holidays with her kids, her family, you know, and so then how does that impact them? And then the generational curse just continues. You know, these things aren't important. My mom was always with the pastor about, you know, or whatever. And so it just continues. And so again, wanted to just highlight the importance of mental health. Especially in positions of power, because one by one, and 150,000 souls are being lost, as you said, because of your brokenness.
Right, if not more.
Right.
And even speaking to that, I'm actually glad you brought it up, because last week, remember I was saying how terrifying it is, and what's the resolve is in reference to people like idolizing their pastors. You know what I'm saying? Like how do we how do you even just say take on a position like that but keep people from idolizing you? And it's I guess I don't want to say crazy, but God actually showed me a scripture in between last week and this week, where in the book of Acts chapter 10, I won't even get into the whole story, but long story short, verse 25 and 26, it says, and as Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshiped him. And in verse 26 says, but Peter took him up, saying, stand up, I myself also am a man. And so me even just seeing that, like, so Peter done something great. This guy bows down and worships Peter, and Peter stands him up and like, yo, listen, stand up. Like,
Right.
I'm just a man. Right. Not only he took the initiative to go ahead and kill that idolatry that was getting ready to happen at the root, but even us talking about past traumas or even but even us just talking about just say, you know, experiencing that healing for yourself, because Peter was definitely somebody who it's safe to say he might have dealt with just say past traumas in the sense of how he reacted to a lot of stuff, you know, like, I mean, he literally was rebuking Jesus from even trying to be crucified in the first place. You know, Jesus had to call Peter Satan, like, get thee behind me, Satan, for even saying, hey, I would never let it, you know, them capture you or whatever like that. I mean, Peter, as we know, denied Jesus 3 times. Peter, you know, cut off the man's ear and all these different types of things. And I don't know if Peter could have handled Cornelius this way if he was still in that place. Mm-hmm. You feel what I'm saying? But because he was able to experience that that healing and that growth, it then was able to, instead of him passing on his hurt to somebody else and it being a generational curse, he was able to help a man who was trying to idolize him and say, yo, like, I'm not God. I'm just a man just like you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not the person that you should bow down to. And I think that as leaders that we may end up being one day, or even as, you know, people who are in leadership now, I think that's very important. Now, if you got 150,000 people every Sunday all over, then, you know, you have to kind of spread that message on a broader level, because you obviously probably couldn't have time to talk to 150,000 individual people. But I think to make it clear that, you know, I'm a vessel, I'm a man. These are the things, once again, going back to that transparency, these are the things that I have been through. These are the things that I'm currently going through. And this is this is the route that I'm taking to try to better myself so that I can be more whole. I think that route is more effective for people who are following, as opposed to looking at somebody who's doing all these great things, and then you're just under the assumption that this person not only is so great, but they're flawless. And it makes you, in one way or another, bow down to them in a way that isn't healthy for their ego as the leader, and it isn't healthy for you as the follower, because now you're putting them on the same level as God almost, which, you know, and that's not the case. And then if in turn they happen to disappoint you because they fall or whatever, and their fall is public, now you have church hurt. Now you have people who, you know, who don't believe in God at all, and, you know, now you're atheists. All of these things are as a result of an idea that you had of a man that was a false idea in the first place. And I'm not saying that it's these people's, I'm not saying it's the followers' fault that they had that false narrative, because that's a narrative that has been created and has been around for probably centuries at this point. But I definitely think it's important for leaders to be transparent and to humanize themselves, because in my personal opinion, and even according to this scripture, that can be healthier. That can be a healthier path for people who are following you to take, because for one, it prevents the letdown from being so heavy, but also it can help them. It can help them look to God more than looking to the person who they are idolizing.
Top of the world.